In this week's episode of the Final Attack Podcast, we're going to look at a game that was played between Victor's Pupils and Emery Tate in the 2006 Reno Far West Open. And Victor's Pupils, very well known not just for the longevity of his chess career. He is 89 years old and is still seen at some of the local chess clubs and tournaments in his area, but also because he famously beat Bobby Fischer in 1955 in the U.S. Junior Championship. It's a very amazing game. It's in fact one of only two games that Bobby Fischer ever lost on time in his chess tournament career. So if you want to play one of these 6 degrees of world champion games, right, Emery Tate never played Bobby Fischer himself, but he did beat multiple players that beat Bobby Fischer, and Pupils is one of them. In this position is black to move, and this was the first puzzle that we gave to the audience on our Twitter X account at _Final Attack. And we're asking you here to basically step it up, be a little bit more challenged. A lot of the puzzles that we've been putting on there for the first 35, 40 puzzles or so are generated towards adult learners. Simple mate and 2, simple 1, 2, 3 move tactics. But now we are turning up the heat, we are turning up the test, we are making it more difficult for you as you get stronger and as you learn more from the OG Master Emery Tate. And so here it is black to move. It's very complex what's happening in this position. It's not such an easy thing to understand on the surface. But you can see here that black does have an advantage, and after the last move white played bishop g3, it becomes a pretty decisive advantage for black. What we have to get here is that there's a lot of pieces on this f1 to a6 diagonal. You can see that the white rook, the white queen, the white bishop, they're all lined up on the same light square diagonal. We look for these patterns when we are playing any sort of tactical situation, tactical position, because tactics happen because of certain alignments and certain patterns that you see time and time again. The white queen on e2, part of her job here is that she's making sure this pawn here on e3 doesn't march down the board. Queen, naturally, as your strongest attacker, probably isn't going to be your best blockader. She doesn't want to really be demeaned to this role, or where she has to just stop this pawn all day from marching down the board and becoming a queen. In this position is black to move, and Emery played the spectacular rook takes c4, queen takes c4, and then of course we skewer them back bishop to b5. In this combination that we asked you to solve in the first puzzle, you really wouldn't understand what you were trying to do if you didn't look a little bit deeper than the solution of the puzzle. So after bishop to b5, the queen gets out of the way, we take the rook, and the king takes back on f1. We actually did not win any material. We gave up a rook for a bishop, and we got a rook for a bishop back. But we were trying to get to this resulting position, and that's where we gave you this second puzzle from this game. Now what we see is we see far fewer pieces around the white king. If we go back to the beginning of the puzzle, you can see that he's got, he's still got this queen here, he's got this rook here in the neighborhood, keeping him protected. But after the combination of rook c4 and bishop b5, skewering down the f1 a6 diagonal, queen to b3, bishop f1, king f1, the king now has all these new avenues of attack that black can utilize. Possibly one of our pieces to the back rank, since that rook on f1 is gone, and since this funky rook on a2, who knows what he's even doing. He's been out to lunch for quite a few moves. There's a lot less pieces to defend the white king, and of course now the king sits on this half open file. The queen and the rook are pointing down the f file. We still have this passed pawn in the neighborhood. He's controlling squares around the king, and of course our dark squared bishop might be able to enter the attack in some scenario later. So back to the starting position. Rook takes c4, queen c4, bishop b5, queen b3, bishop takes f1, and king takes f1. And of course this is the second part of the puzzle that we gave everyone the next day on our daily puzzle from the Twitter account at _Final Attack. And once we have these defenders removed from the white king, we're looking for a way that we can get into the position. And so Emery finds the most brilliant move here, where we're going to focus on this unprotected bishop, and we're going to use one of these open lines of attack, right? We have these diagonals that could possibly lead to the back rank. So after queen to g6, the queen hits the bishop, the queen hits b1, threatening to enter. Maybe one day she could come into d3 and attack the king along the f1 a6 diagonal. There have been a lot of things happening on there. And after bishop to e1, trying to protect the back rank, rook takes f4 check, king to g1, and queen to b1. In this position, Pupils actually resigns because there's no way that he can defend all of these pieces. All right, so our immediate threat is we're just going to go queen takes e1 check, and it won't be that many moves until it's checkmate. If we try to protect this bishop on e1 with a move like queen takes e3, of course, then we're just going to go bishop to d4, and now the bishop going to pin the queen and the king down the g1 to a7 diagonal. Now that, and even if that wasn't the best, then when the queen leaves, she's also going to leave this rook on a2 behind that we're going to just be able to take. So in this situation, white would basically have to pick its poison. How do I want to lose? There's no other way to guard the bishop other than queen takes e3. There's no other way to guard the back rank. And now it's just a very simple win from here. Let's say perhaps you do try to play something like rook a4, just to show you how the game could conclude very quickly. Queen takes e1 check, king h2 is the only legal move. And after rook f1, Bishop e5 check is coming. Rook h1 is going to be mate. There's no way to avoid mate in 1 in this position. This was a very difficult puzzle for a lot of the newer apprentices of the OG Emory Andrew Tate II. Very important lesson in that there are steps in method to appropriately attack. And a lot of times that begins with removing key defenders from around your opponent's king. What the first combination started with, and once those key defenders were gone, we then found entryways into their position. We took advantage of the fact that our queen could get to the back rank. We took advantage of this strong runner on e3. We took advantage of the weak dark squares around the king in this very weakened color complex structure that he has around him here as well. Another great game from international chess master Emory Tate. If you would like to be able to emulate the fighting style of Emory Andrew Tate II, be sure to pick up your copy of The Final Attack at www.thefinalattack.com today.